Welcome to my channel people. Author link will be on description. This was the first time I used the lethal kunai, and according to their description, as long as they injure someone with a body weaker than that of Jonin level, they would definitely die as long as they don't have a special bloodline like the Uzumaki or the Senju, who are known for their strong vitality. The three ninjas didn't think much of their injury other than they should keep more attention on this kid and his tricky throwing jutsu. Their leader, the special Jonin, signaled for them to use the same strategy and force the woman and the kid to protect the civilian couple and the now seriously injured Anabi. The two Chunins nodded back and were about to start executing the plan, but when they tried to manipulate their chakra to attack with their jutsus, they suddenly felt a terrible pain on their chakra channels and it quickly spread like wildfire all over their bodies, and the special Jonin didn't escape this fate. Different from a normal Jonin who is good everywhere, taijutsu, ninjutsu, etc. A special Jonin normally focuses on raising one of their skills to a very high level that can even surpass that of a Jonin. In the case of this special Jonin, his specialty is fuinjutsu, which is the art of using seals. He reached such a high level in it to the point that he surpassed most Jonins and created a personal technique from it, calling it the Roaring Thunder God Jutsu. I wonder where such a character was in the original Naruto. I bet that the Hidden Stone Village tried to kidnap him or something to steal this jutsu, since they pride themselves in their explosion arts. So he probably died sometime before the story of Naruto begins, and I don't remember someone using a similar jutsu to this, so he probably has something as a last resort. I need to be careful, I thought as I looked at the three ninjas in pain. What did you do to us? Asked the special Jonin while gritting his teeth, something the other two couldn't do as they simply kept screaming from the pain. Just poison, a very lethal one, I said while looking at this guy with a hard-to-read look. He frowned and seemed to be trying to decide something. Meanwhile, Makoto wasn't going to simply give them time to think, especially when she knew who this guy is, so she directly attacked with her rain of shurikens, leaving those three no chance to dodge, and that special Jonin yelled, "Uchiha Aaa." I saw that he was about to use his last resort since he was going to die anyway, which I guessed is a very huge explosion, so I used all the focus I could master and analyzed the direction of those shurikens, and I even used my Mangekyo Sharingan to help me since I didn't fear for it being discovered, as I wasn't going to let anyone survive. As for Anabi, he was staying behind me so he couldn't see it. Next, I started weaving hand seals quickly to cast the first jutsu I ever got, the water bullet jutsu. A fist-sized sphere of water rotating at a very high speed appeared in front of me, and I sent it right at his face while adjusting the position of my face slightly. The best quality of this jutsu, even if not as fast as a real bullet, compared to other jutsus, it was very fast and it quickly reached the special Jonin, causing him to look at it while tilting his head to avoid it, and that was his end. After all, I only used this jutsu to draw his eyesight to it, something he kept averting from us as he knows how terrifying the Uchiha genjutsus are. So the moment he made eye contact with the water bullet, his eyes were slightly reflected inside of it, and thanks to my adjusted position, I made eye contact with him directly, and the moment he saw inside my Mangekyo Sharingan, it was over for him. I quickly approached his now static body that was quickly getting consumed by the poison from the lethal kunai, and I started using another ability of the Sharingan, Memory Search, something I can only use because I have the Mangekyo Sharingan, as otherwise, it requires huge mastery over using the Sharingan before you can use it. Looking through this guy's memories, I finally knew who he was. His name was Satoshi Yukisuke, an orphan that was taken under the secret care of the Mitokado clan, Homura's clan, and nurtured to work for them, and he was left here to act as a spy. He idolized Minato because he also was a mere orphan and had to build his way up in this world without a family to go back to or back him, so he always studied seals, wanting to learn Minato's Flying Thunder God Jutsu in the future. However, not anyone can learn it, as only two people are known to be capable of using it, and they are Tobirama Senju, who created it, and Minato, who improved it. However, his hard work paid off in its own way, and being inspired by Minato's famous jutsu, he was able to create a very strong fuinjutsu that works similarly to Minato's, although with a different result, and thanks to this he named it the Roaring Thunder God Jutsu to pay his homage. And that jutsu is why I got interested in this guy's memories in the first place, as I did all I could to memorize the information that was being transferred to my mind, and I planned to give this jutsu to Minato later, allowing him to have an even more dangerous and versatile fighting style when we restore his body. Of course, I am going to use it for myself too, but that's still far in the future for me right now as I barely understood the basics of Fuinjutsu. After I was done extracting his memories, I also understood what his trump card was, and it gave me chills all over my body. All over this guy's skin, and under it there were hundreds of exploding seals ready for his command at any time, and earlier he was just distracted by the pain from the poison not letting him focus on activating such a huge amount of seals, which saved us and everyone in the vicinity, ally or enemy, from a disastrous outcome. Thank you too for saving us, cough cough, said Anabi while coughing some blood. His current state was a mess as even his long hair was burnt to a crisp from the explosion, so he's probably going to get bald for a while. No, it's thanks to Bakurio-kun catching him in a genjutsu before he used his heavenly explosion, otherwise we would be all dead, said Makoto while looking at my eyes, which are now back to normal, in admiration, and Anabi was the same. The Uchiha will rise again no matter what, he thought for one last time before he fainted. You are welcome, sigh. Makoto-san, more people need our help and we need to quickly send this guy to a medical nin. Let move quickly, I said. Yes, she replied, and we quickly carried Anabi and the couple to a safe location where most of the Uchiha were gathering before we left to deal with the rest of this chaos. As Makoto and I were traveling through the Uchiha compound, I noticed that I received many notifications from the system after I killed those ninjas. However, I ignored everything for now and decided to wait until the situation calms down, since they aren't going to run away anyway. And so we continued offering our help whenever we found someone in need, and the unfortunate thing is, there were a lot. But we did our best to take them to the center of the compound where most of the people still safe were gathered, including Naruto and Sasuke, who were offering their help, so they can be better protected, and for the injured to get treatment from the medical ninja we have. We didn't experience something similar to the fights before when saving Makoto or Anabi, and the worst we encountered is some chunins causing trouble here and there, but something got me thinking, just how many clans rebelled against Konoha. I thought as I looked at the tens of corpses covered in the ground, with many of them surrounded by their family crying and wailing, while some didn't even have someone to cry for them. I felt a heavy feeling in my heart. One wrong turn and this is what happens, and God knows how many lost their lives all around the village. Is this the doing of fate? I couldn't help but think that this was the doing of fate. The Uchiha were meant to die, but I changed their lives drastically, and fate is trying to rectify this, right? No. I was granted this ability and a new chance in life, so I have the right to cause a change, I thought as some determination returned to my eyes. It all started with Obito saving Danzo and then convincing those elders, who in turn convinced the other clans, but was it really enough for them to overreact like this? No, was it really worth it? To ruin the village they grew up in? I was perplexed by this question and started doubting the decision of letting those 7 clans leave the village unscathed. However, that doubt quickly dissolved, as that decision was right at that time, and it would only cause more people to rebel, as they wouldn't stand by and see so many clans get annihilated. The first one that would oppose this would be Hiruzen, as he would never allow for his friends and many people from Konoha to get killed just like that, and if his Sarutobi clan joins this mess along with the rest of the clans that were left behind as spies, Fugaku and the Uchiha will simply be sacrificed to end this whole big mess. Not to mention that I couldn't allow for innocent people to die just because of the stupidness of their leaders. So what caused the clans who were left behind to act rashly like this and even attack the Uchiha so viciously? Even if their intentions were dangerous, they could have first had a conversation to clear doubts rather than act rashly like this, as I was really perplexed by this, since they could have solved this situation peacefully until suddenly a light shone on my clouded mind. The problem was something I didn't expect to happen so quickly. It was the interference of other hidden villages. Konoha under Hiruzen's leadership always tried to be peaceful. They never tried to take conflict-provoking actions. However, the other clans weren't the same, and the first thing they do throughout the war and even after it is planting spies. And those spies probably took this as a chance to deal with Konoha, so some of them probably suggested kidnapping Fugaku's family to have a leverage that helps them escape this situation, while the rest of the clans would act as a distraction around the village. This much I could confirm from the memories I stole from Satoshi, but what I couldn't confirm is who caused a simple confrontation to turn into a deadly war. I am pretty sure that the spies started killing people in the chaos, especially the Uchiha, to make it seem like this was the decision of all the rebels, and it suddenly hit me. Satoshi could have killed Anabi even on his own, yet he didn't. Even though he had the help of 2 more Chunins with him and Inabi was preoccupied with protecting the old Uchiha couple, this only means that he didn't intend on killing him from the start. Suddenly my heart started constricting and the feeling of guilt hit me harder than ever before. I almost immediately loaded back to the time before Danzo's incident, but I held myself back for now since it would be pointless to go back without a plan to deal with Obito's broken infiltration ability. Plus I also want to gather a list of all the people that supported those clans and their reasons behind it before I go back. And so with that said, we waited for the situation in the village to settle down, and it didn't take long. Not long after, 2 disheartened and bloody kids returned to the Uchiha compound, and seeing the state it was in, they felt their hearts shatter. Corpses everywhere, kids crying for their parents, wives crying for their husbands, and men cried for their families. As for these 2 kids, they cried for their weakness. Itachi saw his mother helping the injured with whatever medical ninjutsu she could use while Naruto and Sasuke were providing whatever help they could, so he heaved a sigh of relief. At least you guys are safe. Before he noticed Shisui frowning while looking at a kid sitting alone wearing bloody clothes and having 2 bloody short swords beside him while looking at the situation with a blank look without offering any help. And as if noticing their gaze, he turned his blank look at them and waved for them to come over. When they did, Shisui directly tried to ask why I wasn't helping. Why are you no? But I cut him off. Where's Fugaku? My voice was cold and distant as I cut him. Hearing how rude I was, not even using honorifics when calling Fugaku, the already very angry Shisui was about to lash out but suddenly stopped as suddenly he found himself looking at wide crimson eyes overflowing with insanity and something else. Shisui was shocked and even felt a little scared and subconsciously also activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. When did he awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan? No, why is he acting like this? I feel like he's really ready to kill me. Itachi looking at this scene was shocked, but he didn't want a conflict to erupt between these 2, so he kept whatever question he wanted to ask buried in his heart for now and answered, he's in the Hokage Tower holding an urgent meeting right now. Okay, I said as I walked in the direction of the Hokage Tower. At this point, Itachi turned back to his friend, and seeing that he was profusely sweating made him feel confused, so he worriedly asked, "Are you okay, Shisui? Did something happen to you?" Shisui slowly recovered his calm and simply said without explaining, "I saw death. As I was walking around Konoha, I saw destruction and despair everywhere. Houses and shops were destroyed, faces filled with fear while looking around them to make sure no one stabs them in the back. Others were filled with despair while either looking at the debris of the houses or the corpses lying on the ground around them. This scene that seemed to be from hell, filled with both suffering and despair, made me realize something. I might have a gamer system, but this is not a game." The village that was still recovering from the Nine Tails incident 5 years ago, got one hit after another and it reached an all-time low. If the other 4 great hidden villages decide to attack us now. This thought really made me scared, so I rushed to the Hokage Tower without wasting any more time. Once I reached the tower, my eyes widened a little in surprise when I discovered that it didn't suffer any noticeable damage from all the chaos that happened, but I quickly guessed that those ninjas stayed away from it because many strong people would be guarding it as it contains top-secret information. Once I got near the door, a masked man and a woman wearing an Anbu uniform appeared in front of me with cold looks and their weapons pointed at me since they were still on high alert. "Kid, what are you doing here?" the woman asked. "I am here to see the Hokage. Tell him Bakurio Uchiha wants to see you urgently," I said coldly, not intimidated by them at all. "Scram from here, kid. The higher-ups are having an important meeting. They can't be disrupted by you." This time the man was the one that talked, and I could see that he's preparing to hit me next if I disagree. Seeing that they won't allow me entry, I started getting angry and my eyes slowly turned into Sharingans and were about to turn to something more, but someone who heard the commotion quickly appeared between us. It was a man wearing an Anbu mask that's still stained with a little bit of blood, and he had spiky gray hair and a crimson light shining from the opening of the left eye of his mask. This was Kakashi Hatake, the Anbu captain of Team RO. "Captain Kakashi." Those 2 saluted and Kakashi simply ignored them and looked at me with his cold dead eyes that had some darkness in them, clearly from the massacre he recently caused. "Why do you need to meet Hokage-sama?" Kakashi asked. "Just tell him of my visit, and leave it to him to decide whether he wants to meet me or not," I responded, and he gave me one last look before he disappeared, leaving the other 2 Anbu looking at me awkwardly. It didn't take long before Kakashi was back and said, Follow me, and I did follow him. Walking inside the Hokage Tower, we made a few turns and walked some stairs before we reached the meeting room, and he knocked first before entering, which resulted in everyone turning their attention to us. Some people quickly started complaining, saying, "What's a kid doing here?" or similar things, and you can't blame them since everyone was on edge. But surprisingly, before Fugaku could say anything, Hiruzen spoke first. "Calm down everyone, I am sure Bakurio-kun has something important to say." Fugaku, while crossing his hands with his usual stoic look, nodded at them to calm down before he looked at me and said, "What are you here for, Bakurio?" I shook my head and my eyes quickly turned into Sharingans, causing many people to look at me in surprise, but I simply said to him, "Don't resist," and he nodded, understanding what I wanted to do, as we made eye contact and put him inside a genjutsu to show him everything that I went through and the conclusion I reached. "You too, Hiruzen, Hiashi, Shikaku, don't resist," I said, and Hiruzen and Shikaku hesitated a little, but Hiashi quickly nodded and I also put him under a genjutsu. Seeing that both Fugaku and Hiashi seemed to trust the little kid, they also decided to agree, so I quickly made eye contact with both of them and put them under the same genjutsu. They started seeing me visit Fugaku's house, inviting his family to my house, getting attacked by the group of 5 ninjas, which now I understood belonged to the Tatami and Namiyashi clans, which used to be responsible for protecting the Hokage, explaining their excellent teamwork. Those 4 were left shocked by both the betrayal and me using the 9 tails chakra in the fight. Next, they saw me and Makoto giving support to Inabi in his fight against the special Jonin Satoshi Yukisuke and the 2 Chunins, which made them experience a huge sadness at this talented man rebelling and finally ending dead. Finally, I showed them some of the memories of Satoshi and that he was only ordered to capture Fugaku's family and no harm was to be caused to other ninjas from the village, including the Uchiha. However, the reality of the situation was different, so what was the cause of it? The 4 of them were smart, and as the genjutsu ended they came to the same conclusion. Spies from other hidden villages. Fugaku directly smashed the table as his eyes turned into his Mangekyo Sharingan and looked at everyone in the room coldly, and the reaction of the other 3 wasn't that different except for Hiruzen, who only had shame and disappointment in his face. If only I also planted spies in their villages, maybe something like this could be prevented, was the only thought in his head. "What's wrong, Hokage-sama?" the Yamanaka clan head asked after seeing the bad look on his close friend Shikaku's face. Fugaku ignored him and said to me with a menacing look, he was really angry at all the danger his family was under, so he asked, "Was everything you showed us true?" "Yes, you can confirm everything if you ask Makoto, and I am sure you caught some people, so you will get the same truth if you interrogate them," I said coldly with my eyes back to normal. The menacing look on Fugaku's face deepened and he looked at everyone and said, "Everyone, the people we thought were rebelling, the people we thought wanted to simply kill us, so we had to eradicate most of them. Those people didn't really want to fight but only distract us to kidnap my family and use them as a bargaining chip to allow them to leave unharmed after they were discovered." At this, everyone in the room held their breath as they had a bad feeling, and Fugaku continued, "However, because of the interference of suspected spies from the other hidden villages, a simple conflict turned into a bloody war, and I guess they used all kinds of body or mind-controlling jutsu on their comrades to attack the civilians and especially the Uchiha viciously, resulting in an unsolved misunderstanding once the fights already reached their peak. This brings me to what Choza and his Akamichi clan, who specialize in making drugs that affects the body in various ways, discovered during the battle. Some kind of transparent and tasteless mist that provokes bloody thoughts into anyone who inhales it, which we suspect was the doing of someone from the hidden mist. At this, Fugaku went silent for a while, and everyone in the room was the same because of the rage they were feeling from all these conspiracies that are unveiling one by one. Looking at this, Fugaku released his crazy killing intent and loudly declared, "Everyone, prepare for an all-out war." I blankly looked at Fugaku declaring war, but this was indeed his only choice, as either Konoha quickly tries to make preparations for the worst-case scenario starting from now, or get swept in another unpredictable situation like this one. I couldn't help but rethink my previous actions. Was I careless? Yes, I should have planned for Danzo to be killed during the battle. That would have been the best scenario. With that, Obito might not try to rope those elders in. And even if he tries, they might not accept his offer since he can't convince them easily that he's truly after the Uchiha and not the secrets they have about the village, and in the end, he might even kill them to hide his identity and help us get rid of them. Not to mention that after we did great in the mission to collect intel, we messed up the follow-up, although it wasn't my fault alone since no one thought that even more people would be persuaded by the spies the clans left behind. And then there are the spies from the hidden villages. Reaching this point in my thoughts, a deep black darkness emitting a strong sense of malice filled my already dark eyes. They really played it well. Nothing less could be expected from elites that could blend in with the ninja of a hidden village without being discovered. However, for them to be so well prepared. I see. These are probably the preparations made for when the Uchiha clan decides to rebel. It seems in the original story Konoha really dodged a huge bullet. I couldn't help but feel marveled at how deep the currents affecting this world are. Some events like the Uchiha rebellion that seemed to end by a simple massacre that didn't affect anyone in the village in the original story now seem to be having many unknown factors trying to worsen it. Just imagine if the Uchiha rebelled properly with them getting control of the Nine Tails and Fugaku's current power. Add to that the spies from the hidden villages using the same tricks to turn people against each other as much as they could. The end result would be a ruined Konoha. I looked at the heavy mood in the meeting room with some people showing some fear, others showing disappointment, and others showing helplessness. No one was excited by this news, and I could already tell that at this rate Konoha's end is approaching soon. Clan heads started leaving to make preparations for the upcoming war and to ensure the continuation of their clans even in the case they lose. After all, most clans have secret hideouts in different locations in the Land of Fire where they can hide some of their clansmen in. Soon only Fugaku and I were left in the meeting room, and he said first with a sigh, "Thank you for saving Makoto and the kids. I owe you a big one for it." "You don't need to thank me. I also consider them as family," I said with a sigh, and I could see Fugaku's mood improved a little when he heard me. "So what did you signal me to talk about?" asked Fugaku, who went back to his stoic look. "I want a complete report about who are the clans and ninja that are supporting the other 7 clans that already left and their reasons for it. I also want you to do your best to find who the spies belonging to the hidden villages are and the methods they used to control our people as soon as possible," I said seriously with killing intent shining in my eyes at the end of the sentence. "Okay, I will send you a report when we are done with the investigations, but what are you going to do with this information?" asked Fugaku. "Make some corrections," I said with a regretful look before I asked again, "How's the search for Tsunade progressing?" "Jiraiya is doing his best searching for her, but he still couldn't find her. We believe she's avoiding ninja from the village on purpose. That's why finding her is so hard," said Fugaku while sighing, knowing that the help of this Senju princess is really needed for the survival of the village. "Bakurio, do you believe the village can survive this mess?" asked Fugaku. "No, we can't. If Naruto can fully control Kurama we might have a chance, but he can't. Add to that Tsunade will probably not agree to help the village. We are left with only you, Hiruzen, and Jiraiya as cage-level ninja to face against possibly Danzo, Orochimaru, that masked guy, and who knows how many more allies he has. And if we also take into consideration the other hidden villages, we have no chance," I said with a dark look, and Fugaku had a similar look on his face. "Just make preparations the best you could. As for the future, we will simply deal with it however it comes," I said before I directly left. "Future, huh? I wish I could correct my past before I could think about the future, but I can't," said Fugaku seemingly to the air in a tired voice, but my strong hearing picked it up. "Correct the past, huh?" After I left the Hokage Tower, I went directly toward one of the forests inside of Konoha and landed on top of a tree to check some notifications I received during the earlier fights. "You killed a level 27 ninja. You found 120 points. You gained 67, 5 EXP plus additional EXP for the level difference. You killed a level 25 ninja. You found 100 points. You gained 62, 5 EXP plus additional EXP for the level difference. You killed a level 45 ninja. You found 600 points plus medium agility portion. You gained 112, 5 EXP plus additional EXP for the level difference. You killed a level 23 ninja. You found 83 points. You gained 67, 5 EXP plus additional EXP for the level difference. You killed a level 25 ninja. You found 100 points. You gained 57, 5 EXP plus additional EXP for the level Difference: you killed a level 35 ninja. You found 430 points plus basic regeneration ability book passive. You gained 87.5 EXP plus additional EXP for the level difference. I checked my status and I noticed that my level quickly rose all the way up to level 22 thanks to all the additional EXP I got, which means that now I have 110 free attributes points. Next, I checked the items I received. Basic regeneration ability book passive grants the user a passive 30% increase in regenerative ability. Medium agility potion. Increase the user's agility attribute by 50% for 10 minutes. These things are pretty good, I thought, as I directly used the basic regeneration ability book and it quickly disintegrated into orbs of light that entered my body and I felt my blood heating up before it quickly went back to normal. Next, I checked my quests list and I ironically found some of them completed. Ninja Killer Chunin. Kill your first Chunin level ninja. Reward. Random rank C Jutsu completed. Ninja Killer Special Jonin. Kill your first Special Jonin level ninja. Reward. Random medium level talent completed. Ninja Killer Jonin. Kill your first Jonin level ninja. Reward. Random rank A Jutsu completed. I directly chose to accept the missions and quickly received my rewards. Congratulations, you received Rank C Jutsu, Wind Release, Great Breakthrough, Hunting Talent, Medium, Rank A Summoning Jutsu, Quintuple Rashomon. Not bad, I thought, as I was slightly excited by the talent I was about to get, but before that, I checked the description of the two skills. Wind Release, Great Breakthrough, a rank C jutsu that uses wind transformation and allows the user to breathe wind from their mouth, blowing away anything in front of them. The power varies significantly depending on the user's skill level, which depends heavily on the use of the lungs and how strong they make the winds, which are related to the amount of chakra used during the execution of the jutsu. Cost minimum 400 chakra. Summoning Jutsu. Quintuple Rashomon. This is a rank A summoning jutsu that allows the user to summon up to 5 Rashomon gates, each having a very strong defense. The higher the level of the skill, the lower the chakra cost of each gate will be. Cost 4000 chakra per gate. The Great Breakthrough Jutsu seems to rely on the physical qualities of the body as much as chakra qualities, but I believe it fits me perfectly with how strong my organs are, thanks to both Kurama's inheritance and the body strengthening pill I ate when I first came to this world, so I can't wait to try it. But then I frowned at the summoning jutsu and thought, I already have pretty big chakra reserves, yet I could only summon 2 gates. I need to raise the level of this jutsu if I want to use it. Next, I looked at the main thing I was waiting for. The medium hunter talent. And I quickly used it, and the moment I did, I felt my already sharp senses becoming much stronger and I developed something I didn't have before, the instincts of a hunter. This system is making me more and more scary, I thought as I looked at the ground and quickly understood some traces left by animals, who they belong to, and how to track them, and I believe that I can set traps even faster now and how to avoid them, which is always a plus in this very dangerous world. Done with checking my rewards, I finally went back to the Uchiha compound and found that the atmosphere was grim and the air was heavy as I saw even more corpses being laid down on the ground. Those are probably the members of the Uchiha police force that died during the previous chaos. What a mess. There are more than 20 people dead, mostly genins or chunins, I thought with a frown plastered on my face as I walked through this hell. Until I found Tekka along with Itachi and Shisui trying to manage the situation until Fugaku's return. They noticed me but didn't say anything as they were busy, and I didn't either and went directly to my house. Time skip no jutsu. 1 month later, the village was still grieving about the losses they just suffered, reminding them of how cruel the world they lived in was, especially the Uchiha since they suffered the most. During this month, many significant things happened. I raised my level and I received a report from Fugaku about the spies involved in this mess, and it shocked me to know that they discovered some of the remains of the Land of the Sky involved in this too. They used something that provokes the negative emotions of a person and makes him act on them, but I barely remembered what it was from my previous memories because I didn't watch the full Naruto movie about the Land of the Sky and Zero Tail and only heard of them. As for the clans, according to the report, there used to be more than 50 families and clans in Konoha, not counting individuals like Tsunade, for example, because she doesn't have a family or clan, so they aren't counted and only counted as an individual ninja. The majority of these over 50 clans and families are civilians like the Izumo, Haruno, Inari, Akame, Murabashi, etc. Some of these civilian families have ninja like the Muarbashis, Kosuke, who is famous as the strongest genin. Next, there are the small families. These families have at most one jonin or special jonin members and some chunins and genins like the Hagane, Yuhi, and so many others. Next, there are the medium families. These families have at least one jonin or special jonin members and many chunins, plus they have some businesses they rely on and strong secret jutsus like the Aburame, Akamichi, Nara, Yamanaka, etc. And finally, there are the big families. These families have multiple jonins or in some cases cage-level ninjas like the Sarutobi, the Hyuga, and the Uchiha. The Shimura, Udatain, and Mitokado clans were only considered medium-sized clans because their main strength was in their financial power, but they always lack in ninja, especially the Shimura clan, as Danzo would never allow someone to emerge to take away his position as clan head. Now, according to the report Fugaku sent me, first there were 7 deserting clans, 4 medium, Shimura, Mitokado, Udatain, Sakata, and 3 small, and in the incident that happened recently 4 more clans rebelled, being the Tatami and Namiashi along with the small Azuki and Tobitake clans. The rest are individual ninjas and ninjas from civilian families that were easily moved by this noble cause or roped into it by their friends. Some of them, of course, weren't moved at all as they were spies from other hidden villages. Most casualties happened because the ninjas from Konoha weren't expecting their previous comrades to attack them viciously without even talking, and only in some cases would they surrender without a fight, but even in those cases not every one of them ended well, as sometimes those surrendering ninja would explode, causing many casualties and damage because of hidden explosives implanted in them by what they thought were their friends. Of course, this was the specialty of the spies from Iwa. In other cases, people from Konoha would end up killing the surrendering people because they were manipulated or maybe spies directly, causing more and more enmity to build up. I made sure to memorize the methods used in the report and all of the spies discovered and suspected until the time to correct this situation arrives. However, this wasn't the only thing that happened during this month, as unfortunately the news that I was yearning for didn't arrive, as Jiraiya couldn't find Tsunade in this short amount of time, so he was instructed instead to keep an eye on the movements of the other lands as well as the Akatsuki, as he was the best information gatherer Konoha had. Even though Konoha didn't directly spy on the hidden villages, they spied on the lands they occupy, so they have developed spy network in this area. Meanwhile, Mukai too failed on finding Tsunade, so I instructed him to come back to Konoha a week before, and he's been teaching me some taijutsu and how to better take advantage of a dojutsu since then. After all, even though he didn't have a Sharingan, with 1 Byakugan he achieved wonders. If he had 2, God knows what he could do. As for if he awakened it even more, this was a man as talented or even more talented than Itachi. That's how scary he is. During this month I didn't slack at all on my training, and I also finally got some good news from both Kushina and Minato. The preparations to unseal Kurama were ready. Jiraiya did a great job using his huge spying network, which uses brothels and such things to gather information about the recent movements of each of the lands containing a great hidden village. Spying this way will not grant you a definitive answer to what those hidden villages are up to, the same way if you had a high-level spy among their ranks. However, you can predict if they want to make a big move like attacking another village through this method. War doesn't happen out of nowhere. Those hidden villages need to prepare food, weapons, seals, scrolls, medicine, and even clothing specific for a war situation. However, the hidden villages are known for their weak economy, especially Suna village hidden in the sand, so how do they get their preparations ready? Of course, the answer to that is they get them from the land they live in. That's why the cage tries to keep a good relationship with the daimyo of whatever land they reside in, because they are basically their sponsors. There's only one exception to this, and that's Kumo, the land hidden in the clouds, as they have a very strong economy and rarely need the help of the daimyo of the land of lightning. That's exactly how Jiraiya found out the news of the impending doom coming to Konoha from 4 different fronts, as all the hidden villages started making war preparations, and he also received reports about some Akatsuki members wearing their high-collared black robes with red clouds all over them visiting the different hidden villages. Among them, his spies discovered his old teammate who he's been searching for all over the world for years, Orochimaru. For a long time he couldn't find him even with his strong spying network, yet now he appeared in public seemingly unafraid along with 2 people. Jiraiya recognized the Akatsuki trio from the information he received as a missing nin from Kiri, the village hidden in the mist known as Kisame Hoshigaki, and a missing nin from Taki, the village hidden in the waterfalls known as Kakuzu, a man obsessed with money and both their powers unknown other than Kisame being a wielder of Samahata. His fears about the coming war only strengthened when he found out that those three visited all the hidden villages and weren't harmed in the least. Those hidden villages might come to an agreement and have even more helpers. I need to quickly inform Sensei and the Hokage, thought Jiraiya as he quickly sent the information back to the village. As Jiraiya was sending the information to Hiruzen and Fugaku, I called for Mukai and went to meet with Fugaku at the Hokage office. This time no one tried to stop me as they were ordered not to by Fugaku, so we easily arrived in front of the office door and entered. Inside I saw Fugaku frowning while looking at some papers. Deeply and almost didn't notice us entering, so I said, "More bad news." Fugaku looked up from the papers and sighed while looking at Mukai before his gaze landed on me and stayed there. Yes, the situation is becoming worse every day. Fugaku didn't want to explain the situation when he saw Mukai, who he still didn't trust, standing behind me like a loyal bodyguard while not saying anything and simply taking a mouthful of his drink from time to time. I see, I responded with a frown, already having a strong guess at what would leave Fugaku so distressed, but I decided to talk to him alone later, so I smiled and said, "I have good news." "What?" Fugaku looked a little hopeful as I told him some of my plans previously. Minato and Kushina are ready to start the operation. They created the seals needed and they also mastered the spirit transformation jutsu, so everything is ready. I only need you and Shisui to be on standby just in case. I said. Great. Fugaku was excited to the point he stood up from his chair. I will make some preparations and we can start right away. Good. I will be with Naruto until then, I said before I left with Mukai, who didn't ask anything as if he was uninterested in what we spoke at all, which he was not. He was really curious but just didn't ask for some reason, a reason that didn't hide from the emotionless abyss growing in my heart. I walked back to my house to wait for Fugaku there. It was a little bit in the evening, so I found Naruto back at my house from his training with Sasuke, which they took seriously now under the supervision of one of my shadow clones. "Bakurio, you are back." Naruto greeted me with a smile. I smiled back at him and said, "Yes, Naruto, come here. I need to talk to Minato and Kushina." "Okay." Naruto nodded his head and walked near me, and I put my hand on his abdomen and injected some of my chakra to connect to the seal space. As my vision changed and appeared inside the familiar sewer-like space, I was greeted by Minato's serious voice. "Bakurio, is Fugaku-san ready?" "Yes, he should be ready soon. I just came here to confirm again. No harm is going to occur to Naruto during the extraction process, right?" I asked with a frown. "Yes, don't worry. If anything goes wrong, you know what to do," said Minato with a nod, and I nodded back at him. The reason a tailed beast is rarely extracted from its Jinchuriki is that the Jinchuriki's chakra will also be extracted, resulting in their death most of the time. This happens because the chakra of the tailed beast slowly merges with its wielder's original chakra over time, and this merging process is intensified when the Jinchuriki uses more and more of the beast's chakra. But Naruto's case is different because his seal is still strong and his chakra has minimal interaction with Kurama's, so he should be safe during the extraction process. However, there's always the possibility of something going wrong during this process and Naruto's chakra could get extracted. In that case, we plan on using a chakra refilling pill to help him recover his chakra. After all, as long as someone has strong vitality like in Uzumaki, they won't die right away. Like what happened to Mito Uzumaki or Kushina Uzumaki, even though they would have died shortly after the 9 tails was extracted from them. It didn't happen right away. Finally, the time of getting a really strong ally has come, I thought as I looked at Kurama, who was perking his ear and listening to my conversation with Minato while waving his 9 tails from the happiness of his release coming close. "Yo Kurama, are you excited?" I said with a smile. "Grr, of course, kid, you can't imagine the pain of being sealed for decades after decades," said Kurama with excitement. "What do you want to do after getting released?" I asked, and I quickly heard the answer I was waiting for. "HMPH, snorted Kurama before he said with some killing intent, "I will help you deal with your troubles. Consider this your payment for releasing me. Tsunere as always, but it's good enough." I couldn't help but smile and thought that it was really worth it to help this big fox. "Good. Make sure to control your chakra to minimize any harm on Naruto, okay? I said seriously. Ha ha ha, do not worry kid, let's just get this unsealing over with, said Kurama excited. Okay, Fugaku should be coming soon, let's go, I said and nodded at Minato and Kushina before I left the seal space. The time to free the feared fox has come. In a heavily forested area a good distance away from Konoha stood 4 figures with a man and a woman lying unconscious in the ground beside them. The 4 standing figures were all males and consisted of a man, a teenager, and a kid, and they all have the usual Uchiha appearance of black hair and black eyes but with different hairstyles, while the last one, another kid, had short blonde hair and blue eyes. They were Fugaku, Shisui, and Bakurio surrounding Naruto as if waiting for something. As for the unconscious man and woman, they are prisoners they brought with them for a very important purpose. Minato, Kushina, let's begin. As soon as I said this, inside Naruto's seal space both Minato and Kushina started making hand seals. To be specific, they did the hand seals for the spirit transformation jutsu. Tiger right pointing arrow, ram right pointing arrow, rat right pointing arrow, horse right pointing arrow, boar right pointing arrow, hare. When they finished, their souls became covered in a blue aura and they felt they could leave the seal space without getting pulled inside the afterworld, better known in the Naruto world as the Pure Land. Soon Minato and Kushina left the seal space and appeared in front of us. Fugaku and Shisui stared at them in a daze, still finding the situation unbelievable, but they quickly nodded at them in greeting and Fugaku said, "Minato, it's nice to see you again." Minato gave his usual sunny smile since he was really happy to meet this old friend that always supported him when he was a Hokage. "It's good to see you again, Fugaku-san." Then he turned serious and asked, "Are these the criminals you chose for the mission?" Fugaku nodded back to reassure him, "Yes, we carefully picked these 2 for their heinous crimes of kidnapping villagers from the land of fire and selling them to nobles of other lands as slaves, so you don't need to worry about using them." What Fugaku meant by using them is related to the use of the spirit transformation jutsu. This S-rank jutsu created by the second Hokage Tobirama has many uses. From allowing its user to leave his body and become a spirit impervious to physical harm, or transmitting information regardless of the distance, or transferring chakra from one person to another the way Dan Kato did on Tsunade during the 4th Great Ninja War. It also allows the user to locate anyone as long as they have seen them before and know their chakra signature regardless of the distance. However, there's another application of this jutsu, and that's it allows the user to possess the body of a target. While inside, the user is able to suppress and collapse the victim's spirit, killing them or simply gaining control of the said body for a period of time. The downside of this jutsu is that you can't possess a dead body or kill your possessed target by suicide or something similar because you will die with him. Also, leaving a possessed body isn't as easy as leaving your own, especially when in physical pain or emotionally compromised, so it could leave you vulnerable to enemy attacks. And then there's the difficulty of learning this jutsu, which makes it almost impossible to learn. And if it wasn't for the very high talent both Kushina and Minato possessed, as well as already being in a spiritual form, it would have taken them way longer to learn it. Minato still frowned a little while looking at the prisoners since he doesn't like to use such methods, but he knew it was necessary and decided to just go with it because of the urgency of the situation. "Okay, let's start," said Minato as he nodded at Kushina, and they both possessed the unconscious duo. As they stood up with these 2 new bodies, they first tried to get used to them before they walked near Naruto, and Minato said, "Are you ready, Naruto?" Naruto was feeling hesitant and looked at them weirdly because they were in different bodies. Then he looked at me, and when he saw me nod at him, he became determined and said, I am ready." "Good." Minato warmly patted him, and under Kushina's worried look, he raised his right hand as each finger started glowing blue with chakra before he lifted Naruto's shirt and placed his hand on his abdomen, and soon markings started appearing on Naruto. When the seal fully appeared on Naruto, Minato started rotating his hand clockwise, and it felt as if he was opening a lock, and that's indeed what's happening, as inside the seal space Kurama was looking as the paper that was hanging on the door imprisoning him quickly burned into ashes and a circular lock made of many connected sections appeared. The lock slowly started opening one section at a time clockwise, the same direction Minato was turning his hand, and Kurama's chakra quickly started leaving from it and trying to cover Naruto, putting both Shisui and Fugaku on guard since they didn't feel safe around Kurama yet. However, at this moment Minato simply gestured for Kushina and she quickly rushed beside Naruto and started helping him suppressing that chakra and not allow it to get in contact with his own to make the extraction process safer. Kushina was perfect for this as she was the previous Jinchuriki of Kurama, so she had experience in controlling some of Kurama's chakra. Some is the best anyone could control before Naruto is the huge volume, and Kurama's unwillingness to cooperate with people trying to use him never allowed for any of his Jinchurikis to achieve anything with him. More and more of Kurama's chakra started leaking from the seal even though he was trying his best to control it, but it was still manageable for an Uzumaki like Kushina who is used to controlling her huge chakra reserves, so she barely suppressed it until finally the seal was completely opened. During this whole process, Naruto felt some pain but he did his best to endure it, but soon it became too much for him because once the seal was completely opened, Minato's hand motion changed from a rotation to a pulling one, causing Naruto to scream in pain, but it went as quickly as it came. The moment Minato used that pulling motion, Kurama felt a tug as if something was pulling at him, and he quickly used his fastest speed to leave the space to not cause too much pain to Naruto, and just like that, an almost 100 meters tall nine-tailed fox appeared in front of the group with Fugaku and Shisui quickly activating their Mangekyo Sharingan in preparations for the worst. Something worth mentioning is that Minato never used the key to open the seal because he was the caster of this seal and doesn't need a key to open it. Roar! Kurama raised his head and roared at the sky in excitement, a roar that sent a huge shock wave through the air while his tail swayed around, causing destruction everywhere they landed in the forest. This is the might of the nine tails. A casual swing of one of his tails is enough to cause most ninja to despair, and it indeed caused Fugaku and Shisui to worry even more. I am finally free, said Kurama before he felt something hit him in the hand and heard someone yelling at him, "Shut up you idiot, can't you see Naruto's still in pain?" Kurama was about to lash out but he held it back after he saw Naruto in Kushina's arms frowning and unconscious, clearly still in pain. So he simply laid down while Shisui kept looking at him in awe. So this is the nine tails. It's huge. Meanwhile, seeing me hit Kurama, Fugaku almost had a heart attack but ended up heaving a sigh of relief when he saw how tame Kurama was. This kid will give a heart attack one day, I know it, thought Fugaku while looking at me. I looked at Naruto with my Sharingan and seeing that he was quickly going back to normal, I heaved a sigh of relief before I turned my attention to this huge fox and smiled. Finally, I got a strong ally. After Naruto's situation stabilized, we begin our next purpose in coming here. After all, simply unsealing Kurama wasn't enough. Kushina handed the unconscious Naruto to me and both she and Minato started walking towards Kurama before they quickly started writing all kinds of seals on his body and the ground, almost dyeing both of them completely in black ink. We watched the operation of two Fuinjutsu masters in admiration as what they were doing right now is applying the seal that counters Genjutsu. When someone is under the effect of a Genjutsu, their chakra becomes static and doesn't flow inside their body anymore, so generally, when people try to escape from a Genjutsu they try to create a burst of chakra to allow them to break from this static flow or get outside help by having someone inject chakra into their chakra channels, restoring their flow. From this general knowledge, Kushina and Minato came up with a simple solution, and that's to take advantage of Kurama's huge chakra reserves and store a small portion of it in a seal that would activate whenever he's put under a Genjutsu. After they finished drawing the seals, these seals started traveling directly towards the location of Kurama's heart, and when everything was absorbed, it resulted in a black seal mark in the shape of a shining sun. Sensing that they were done, Kurama started injecting his chakra into this seal mark until it was completely full before he stopped and asked them, "Minato, are you sure this won't allow me to fall under another Genjutsu?" Minato thought about it a little before he rubbed the back of his head and said, "Theoretically, yes, I thought it was better to test it here rather than to be taken by surprise against an enemy like Obito, so I looked at Fugaku and said, Fugaku, please use your Mangekyo Sharingan and your strongest visual powers and see if you can manipulate Kurama." Fugaku nodded at this, but he hesitated when he looked at Kurama, who was showing an angry face at my suggestion, so he asked, "Are you okay with this?" Kurama snorted and said, "Try it." Once he heard Kurama's confirmation, Fugaku's eyes slowly turned to the shape of 3 dots followed by 3 curves spiraling counterclockwise around the pupil, and he couldn't help but remember how he once thought of using these eyes to control the 9 tails and use it to rebel, but now he was going to try to control it for a whole different reason, causing him to let out a sigh. Meanwhile, Minato and Kushina looked at Fugaku's eyes with obvious curiosity. So these are the famous eyes that could shrink space. The Uchiha are really strong, thought Minato. Then he looked at me with a complicated look and thought about the time Makoto was about to sacrifice herself to save me, Naruto and Sasuke, causing me to use my Mangekyo in anger. Just what ability is your eyes hiding? I can clearly remember a feeling similar to the Death Reaper eye. Summoned to seal Kurama. Back at Fugaku, he made eye contact with Kurama, causing Kurama's eyes to slowly transform into a 3-tomo Sharingan. However, before he could admire his success, the seal on Kurama's chest started shining like a real sun, and seal marks traveled from it, enveloping his chest like a huge tattoo, causing his eyes to turn back to normal in the process. A sigh of relief escaped from us, while Kurama quickly put more chakra inside the seal and started laughing. I can't be controlled anymore, before he looked at me with his intimidating shining crimson eyes. I could easily tell that he was feeling grateful and wanted to thank me but didn't know what to say, so I just sighed and said, "There's one more seal left, wait until it's over before you talk, and stop laughing so loudly, you are going to burst my eardrums, tch." Kurama's face turned visibly annoyed but was also excited at the next seal that would make sealing him difficult in the future. Minato and Kushina simply looked at this in amusement as they knew this is our usual interaction. As for Shisui and Fugaku, they just looked at this dangerous huge fox in wariness, to the point Fugaku almost smacked me in the head for provoking him. Kurama calmed down again and very quickly we started marveling at the complicated seals Minato and Kushina were drawing all over the place before they finished by doing some hand seals which caused the seals to start getting absorbed inside of Kurama's abdomen. When everything was absorbed, a seal mark in the shape of 7 stars connected by thin lines appeared outside of Kurama's abdomen before they quickly disappeared again. Shisui couldn't help but curiously ask, since this is the first time he heard of something that makes it harder to seal a tailed beast. "Minato-sama, what kind of seal is this and how can it make it harder to seal Kurama again?" Fugaku thought Shisui was being rude by asking someone's secret, as it was the same if Minato was asking if the Uchiha had another trump card. But before he could reprimand him, Minato looked at this curious Uchiha genius that reminded him a little of his younger self with a smile and said, "This is a seal I created with Kushina called the 7 stars seal. As you might know, seals are different ways of manipulating chakra to achieve multiple effects. And what this seal does is makes it harder to manipulate chakra in its near vicinity, making sealing a tailed beast very difficult if not impossible. However, it also makes it harder for a tailed beast to use chakra to attack, so they become restricted to using their physical abilities, so this is best used on a worst case scenario." Hearing Minato's explanation, they couldn't help but think that both this guy and his wife are geniuses for them to come up with such a seal that doesn't completely immobilize a tailed beast which is made of chakra. Instead it only restrict them to physical attacks, which is Kurama's strong point other than his tailed beast bomb. Shisui's curiosity ignited even more, so he asked, "Can a taijutsu specialist use this to disrupt enemy attacks? If yes, this would be perfect for them." However, this time Kushina shook her head and responded to him, "They can, but they will need a huge amount of chakra for them to activate the seal. At least cage level, so it's not possible for individual use. At least not right now." Shisui quickly understood her meaning. Indeed, if this seal is improved the same way Minato-sama improved the second Hokage's Flying Thunder God Jutsu, it would be amazing. And then he noticed Fugaku glaring at him, causing him to feel embarrassed and didn't ask any more questions. "Kurama, how do you feel?" I asked. "I feel great. I can't sense anything negative affecting me from the seals," he responded. "That's good. Can you shrink your size?" I could already feel some ninja from Konoha coming this way, probably because they heard some idiot roaring and laughing, I said mockingly. Hiding his embarrassment, Kurama quickly yelled, "Who are you calling idiot, you dumb kid?" which caused a few veins to emerge on my forehead, but before I could say anything, Kurama used the shape-shifting jutsu, causing him to slowly shrink in size. The shape-shifting jutsu was created by Minato, Kushina, and I, using the transformation jutsu as a base and taking into consideration that as a tailed beast, Kurama is made from chakra, so theoretically, it should be possible to apply principles of manipulating chakra on his body. The reason we went to such lengths and didn't simply teach Kurama the transformation jutsu is that it won't work in something that has a huge amount of chakra like a tailed beast, which will passively disrupt the effect of the jutsu. Meanwhile, what the shape-shifting jutsu does is use the transformation jutsu to create a miniature form for Kurama while at the same time concentrates the huge chakra that makes his body to fill that form, reducing his size in the process without losing his shape as a nine-tailed fox. And just like that, the 100 meters tall Kurama shrunk to a 10-meter tall nine-tailed fox, which is the maximum with his current chakra manipulation skills. This transformation caused his body to be even harder, and damaging him now without a really strong jutsu will be almost impossible. At the same time, Hiruzen and some Anbu reached this place after hearing the commotion Kurama caused, and they quickly landed beside Fugaku. Did something happen here, Fugaku? Asked Hiruzen, who's in his full fighting gear while the Anbu behind him were on guard ready for fighting too. However, they quickly noticed a fox that seemed familiar waving its tails in the air and glaring at a kid in front of it, causing terror to raise in their hearts, and Hiruzen was about to use a jutsu to attack, but before he could, Fugaku stopped him. Relax Hiruzen, he's not our enemy, said Fugaku while stepping in their way and followed by saying, he's going to help us during the incoming trouble. It was like a bomb dropped on everyone's ears. Because to have the help of the feared nine-tailed fox is like finding water in a desert for them, as the current situation was impossible to solve without strong allies, and what better ally than the strongest of all tailed beasts. Hiruzen tried to control his excitement, but he was perplexed, so he asked, Fugaku, please explain the situation to us. Fugaku shook his head at his request before he pointed at Minato and said, Minato will explain since he has known about this way before me. This guy is Minato. I really can't understand what's happening anymore. Hiruzen sighed, looking at the two unknown ninjas standing beside Naruto while feeling that time was passing him very fast. He heard Minato say, I am sorry for not informing you, Hiruzen-san, but there were just many uncertainties in the village and I wanted to make sure that this matter will not be exposed, otherwise people would have opposed to it. That's why no one knew about the unsealing of Kurama, including Fugaku, only at the last moments. Hiruzen frowned at this and asked what worried him the most, but are you sure he won't go berserk again? At this, Kurama looked away from Bakurio and narrowed his eyes at Hiruzen. Old man, you are the last person that should mistrust people. After all, I still remember how you gladly promised Minato to take care of his kid. I wonder how that ended out to be. Hearing Kurama's mocking words, Hiruzen wasn't affected as he knew he deserved them. However, Tenzo Yamato, who is still young at this time and people always told him that his rare wood release could restrict tailed beasts, got hot-headed and said, how dare you mock Hokage-sama, before he clapped his hands, causing wood pillars to emerge from the ground and move in the direction of Kurama. Stop, Tenzo, yelled Hiruzen, but it was too late as he already initiated his attack, which caused my eyes to turn cold, and I thought, if Kurama wasn't close enough to me, the attack of this idiot would have resulted in the emergence of a new conflict between him and Konoha, ruining all my efforts and making him an ally. Seeing that my hard work to make Kurama accept people again was about to be ruined by this idiot, I quickly reacted, making one of my short swords appear out of nowhere, and I coated it in a very sharp chakra before I slashed all his wood pillars into pieces and flickered in front of Tenzo, landing a kick at his stomach, sending him flying from the sheer physical power I used. Kakashi quickly ran to see if his friend was okay, as I put my short sword away and coldly looked at everyone. If any of you attack Kurama again, next time the punishment would be death. One Anbu tried to respond, however Fugaku quickly cut him off. Enough. Tenzo will be punished for attacking an ally without reason. Kurama is now an ally of Konoha. Attacking him in any way would result in heavy punishment. Now other than Hiruzen, the rest of you disperse. I agree with Fugaku's decision, say Hiruzen, knowing the trouble Tenzo's stupid actions could have caused wasn't something Konoha could handle right now. Yes sir, and they all obediently left. TCH, and here I wanted to teach that brat that has the same ability as Hashirama a lesson, said Kurama with a disappointed face, but I could clearly tell that he was feeling delighted because I stood up for him. Hiruzen, seeing that everything was fine, he gestured for Minato to tell him the rest of the story, and he did tell him about the seals they made for Kurama to make imprisoning and controlling him harder, if not completely impossible, and how he promised to help them in the coming war, causing Hiruzen to feel delighted. This is really good news. Thanks, you too, you really did a huge favor to Konoha, I can't thank you enough. He said. However, Kushina didn't give a damn about his gratitude and said in an angry tone. You should be thanking Bakurio, not us, since he's the one that came up with this. We only followed his suggestions. Hiruzen seemed surprised at this and turned his attention to the boy that just dealt with an Anbu as if it was nothing. So it's Bakurio again, huh? Just what's this kid's secret? He thought and said. Thank you, Bakurio-kun. Konoha's really lucky to have you. Yay. Just make sure that an incident like this one doesn't happen again. I said at this. Hiruzen sighed and said. It can't be helped. After all, you know the sentiments of the people regarding Kurama as you called him, especially with the incident 5 years ago still fresh in people's minds. As if I don't know this as I thought. Yes, I know, but you need to think of a way to make people accept him faster. You are good at manipulating opinions. Just use this talent of yours. Hiruzen looked visibly embarrassed at my words that reminded him of what Kurama just said about Naruto, so he simply nodded and said, I will do my best. With this matter settled, I looked at Shisui and asked, how's the situation with those clans? Shisui frowned and said, they were welcomed by the ninja from the village hidden in the rain, and now they are making preparations for war through the support of many parties including Kumo and Iwa. It seems even with Kurama's help, Konoha's fate is still grim. I thought with a frown before I asked, did they determine when they will initiate their attacks? Yes, they just did an hour ago. They will attack us in. Here Shisui's face was filled with despair and everyone looked at him with absolute focus waiting for the answer. 3 days. Hearing the shocking news that the war will start in 3 days, everyone felt depressed, especially when they heard the clear involvement of both Kumo and Iwa, which are equally as strong as Konoha if not stronger. I wish we had more time. Maybe Minato or Kushina could have learned the forbidden jutsu summoning, impure world reincarnation Edo Tensai, and use it to have better bodhis, I thought before I quickly shook my head. No, who am I kidding myself about? Even a genius like Orochimaru took years and years to learn this jutsu, and it was only perfected in the end at the hands of Kabuto, so it wasn't a possible solution in the first place. This was the best course of actions, unfortunately. Let's just gather as much information as possible from this situation and take advantage of this war. Fugaku, who already knew about this, wasn't as depressed as everyone else, and I guessed this was what caused him to be distressed when I saw him inside his office with Mukai, and I understood now why he didn't want to tell me then. Mukai, huh? Now that I think about it, I really need to handle that guy soon before he becomes too much trouble. I have many ways to verify someone's loyalty. And I was checking the one I trusted the most, a simple quest that didn't change in my system interface, and that's the quest about gaining loyal followers. This quest will change when 2 conditions are met. First, I make a deal with someone to be my follower, and 2, he wholeheartedly agrees to follow me and really become loyal to me. In Mukai's case, I can see that I never gained his loyalty, that's why the mission is still showing 2/3. Meaning I have 3 followers, but only 2 of them are truly loyal, and knowing Minato's and Kushina's personalities, it's easy to tell who's the problematic person. Let's see what you have to say later, I thought before I turned my attention to Fugaku. Fugaku, as much as you want to make preparations for those 4 hidden villages, I suggest you be wary of those Akatsuki members too and put them on the same level as the other hidden villages, if not higher. Hearing what I said, Fugaku narrowed his eyes and started to have a bad feeling at what I'm going to tell him next, and the others didn't feel any different other than Kurama, who thought no one can beat him now. You already know how strong Orochimaru is, and I am pretty sure that Danzo is going to join him during the attack that leaves 3 people, Kakuzu, Kisame, and the masked man whose relation to the Akatsuki is undetermined right now. Fugaku nervously nodded at me and said, please explain anything you know about them. For the masked man, I am sure you know how dangerous he is, and I think it's better if we leave Minato to deal with his annoying ability. Everyone agreed with this, as Minato is the best choice with his flying thunder god jutsu that can keep up with Obito's Kamui. Seeing this, I continued my explanation. As for the other 2, Kakuzu is someone who escaped from Taki along with their forbidden jutsu, which makes him almost immortal. He's also a very cold-hearted individual, and one of his greatest feats is trying to assassinate Hashirama at his prime and survived. And now, thanks to the forbidden jutsu he stole, He gained a weird ability that grants him 5 hearts that allow him to have access to all 5 elemental releases and escape death as long as one of them is still intact. What? Kushina and Shisui yelled at the same time and everyone's jaw dropped, especially at the mention of him fighting Hashirama and surviving, and it only grew after hearing he could use all 5 elemental releases, which is something only very few ninjas could do, and they are all at least cage caliber ninjas like Hiruzen. Add to that his immortality. Left all of them with only one thought: what a troublesome opponent. Hiruzen was shocked more than anyone here because he witnessed just how strong the first Hokage is with his own eyes. That's why he didn't even yell like the other two and simply stared with wide eyes. I expected that they would be shocked, but it's necessary for them to be prepared for what they are going to face even if it lowers their morals even more, so I continued. Next is Kisame. He was trained to be one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist by the previous wielder of Samahata, and he killed his master while stealing this famous sword in the process. This guy has a very cruel and twisted personality as he even targets his comrades sometimes. He's very good at water release and I believe he might even rival the second Hokage Tobirama at it. Add to that his use of Samahata makes him very problematic to those who rely heavily on ninjutsu or pure chakra like Jinchurikis, as I believe he can deal with most Jinchurikis including the 8 tails one without any assistance. I said I believe, but this was true as he dealt with Killer Bee on his own. I thought while my fellow Konoha ninja started feeling just how hopeless this situation is. I suggest, Fugaku deals with Kakuzu as your Mangekyo Sharingan will help you avoid his troublesome abilities and give you the opportunity to destroy his heart and retreat whenever you wish. As for Kisame, I think Kakashi and Mukai are best suited to deal with him. Unfortunately, Guy is still a little bit young and doesn't have a strong mastery of the 8 gates release, so he can't deal with the current Kisame, otherwise he would have been a better choice than Mukai, I thought. Hiruzen and Fugaku frowned for different reasons. The former was betrayed by Mukai while the latter didn't trust him from the start, so they couldn't help but ask. Mukai can indeed be very useful with his taijutsu skills being probably the best in Konoha right now and a great counter to Kisame, but can you guarantee that he will not betray us again? Hearing Hiruzen's question, I simply shrugged and said with narrowed eyes, I can't guarantee to you that I won't betray you, not to mention Mukai. Hearing this, Hiruzen was shocked and took a step away from me. As I guessed he doesn't fully trust me, I thought as I quickly went back to my innocent face and looked at the distressed Hiruzen that knew he just made a huge mistake. Everyone noticed how weird his reaction was and Fugaku almost released his killing intent at this. He still won't fully trust you, was all he was thinking in anger. Relax, I am just joking, I will make sure he doesn't betray us, don't worry. Just think about how you deal with your student and friend. I can't wait to see what excuse you will make this time to let them escape. Hiruzen didn't know what to say and lowered his head. Meanwhile, Fugaku ignored this useless old man and asked what concerned him the most. This way our high-level forces are already spent and we can't deal with the hidden villages. I shook my head. Well, we have Jiraiya, Kurama, and Shisui. Other than that we can only hope the rest of the clans can do their best. We can't survive this without huge sacrifices. I paused for a second here before I said, I will do my best too. Fugaku understood that I was planning to use my Mangekyo Sharingan and couldn't help but repeat. We can only do our best, huh? This unlucky man, just like Minato, couldn't enjoy his position as Hokage at all and had to be thrown directly into a war, and now, the time for him to make the final preparations has come. Back at Konoha, every ninja from Genin level all the way up to the Kage level were busy making preparations for what's to come under the leadership of Fugaku and Hiruzen, and Minato, who's still possessing the body of that criminal, and the first thing they did was order the ninja doing missions outside the village to urgently return. This included Jiraiya. Meanwhile, in a forest inside of Konoha, a black-haired kid with crimson eyes and 3 black tomo inside of them was having an intense fight with a black-haired man that has a Byakugan in his left eye. They are Bakurio and Mukai. Feeling the sweat and the pain coming from every part of my body, I couldn't help but angrily look at this annoying guy in front of me who's still taunting me after I couldn't land a single hit on him. Of course, that's because we are having a purely taijutsu fight, which is Mukai's specialty, and with him being much more physically stronger than me and more proficient in using his Byakugan. I found myself being played with left and right, and he didn't hold back any of his punches, going as far as using the gentle fist, causing me some internal damage. TCH, this guy is basically at the peak of close combat. I feel like even if someone like Guy could overpower him by opening some of the 8 gates, he might still find a way to defend himself until Guy burns himself out, I thought. Of course, he wouldn't stand a chance if Guy could open all the 8 gates, but other than that, he's got the best chance of winning. That's just how the Hyuga style works when in the hands of a true master, it grants its user absolute defense. Let's try this again, I thought before I rushed at him and launched a punch at his chest with my right hand, which he calmly sidestepped to the left from with a smirk on his face and countered with a right side kick at my stomach with very fast speed, which even though I can see clearly thanks to my strong reaction speed, I still could barely make my body move away from its direction because of my lacking agility compared to him. Unknown to me, Mukai was full of surprise and shock, but he didn't show it on his face as he thought, what a terrifying reaction speed. If his body was stronger I wouldn't stand a chance against him. As I adjusted myself, I ran at him again and jumped while sending a front kick right at his stomach, which I could tell from how he lowered his hands that he planned to catch it and punish me for it by probably smashing me to the ground. However, I only had one thought in my fast processing mind. I got you, as the simple front kick turned into a question mark kick, a type of kick where you feint with a front kick to the midsection and switch mid-action into a high kick in the direction of the head, creating the shape of an. Check it out, it's pretty cool. Mukai, who never saw this kind of kick before, finally got caught off guard a little, but he quickly reacted and barely leaned back, making me hit the air again. I almost went berserk seeing that even this didn't work, and kept repeating to myself, he's just physically stronger than you, that's all. That's freaking all. Before I calmed down a little and heard him say with his eyes containing a different emotion other than his usual indifference. It was curiosity. What was that kick? He asked, clearly fascinated by this new type of attack he's going to add to his vast arsenal. He really likes close combat, huh? I thought before I kindly replied to him. It's called the question mark kick. I had to jump to use it because you are taller than me, but in reality, you can simply use it by faking a front kick or a knee or a low kick. I responded to him and explained to him how to set it up in different ways. Mukai nodded again. And again with a smile. Amazing, most people would be taken by surprise by it. Looking at this excited fellow, I thought it was time, so I dropped the nice act and my eyes turned cold and my face slowly turned emotionless as I forgot about all the pain I was feeling and said, indeed it is. By the way, Mukai, I have a question for you, care to answer it honestly for me? Mukai, seeing the change in my demeanor, knew that something wasn't right, so he secretly put his guard up and didn't deactivate his Byakugan, making sure that there are no traps or anyone around before he replied, sure, go ahead. I nodded at him. I am glad you chose to be honest. Please tell me then, when are you planning on betraying me? I couldn't help but admire this guy, as hearing this direct question the expression on his face didn't change at all, however his emotions were a different story. Mukai coldly replied, I don't know what you are talking about. I couldn't help but smile, but he could tell that the smile didn't reach my still unchanging cold eyes as I said, really? Is that why you are planning on transporting your family from the village using those merchants you blackmailed? Hearing the mention of his family and his plans getting exposed, Mukai's calm expression crumbled, and what replaced it was intense killing intent. If you do anything to them I will kill you. Seeing his strong reaction I couldn't help but sigh. I hope you don't force my hand. Why did you decide to betray me rather than ask me to help your family leave the village and escape the damage of this war? Mukai looked at me mockingly before he took out a cigarette and said while lighting it up, are you an idiot? What will happen if they survive and I die in this helpless situation? Who do you think will treat Murata's illness? I narrowed my eyes at him. Oh, from your reaction it seems you found a way to treat your son, and your life is needed for it. Let me guess, you found Tsunade, didn't you? Yet you didn't tell me, meaning she probably couldn't treat your son's illness with only her medical skills, but what could the best medical nin lack to treat someone? I paused and looked at the surprise in his face, which he couldn't hide this time, and his hand holding the cigarette froze. Guess she needed medical equipment, and who to better ask for help than Kumo, who has the most advanced medical equipment between the 5 hidden villages. As for how to convince them to help you, you probably bargained by hiding the information about Tsunade so that she doesn't join the war to assist Konoha, and maybe exposing other secrets like my communication seal. Mukai's surprise turned into terror as he dropped the cigarette without even realizing it while looking at the emotionless kid who deduced everything he did outside before he came back to Konoha accurately. You know, I thought highly of you, yet you already betrayed me, huh? I said while looking at the clouds. Mukai had one thought in mind. How could you not show any emotions? Why are you not blaming me or being angry at getting betrayed? Yet he got no answer as the kid simply looked at the sky, his mind lost inside of his distant memories. Thanks for listening guys, see you in the next part.